Hey guys, welcome to the Doctors Who Read Stuff. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know the format by now, but we absolutely love diving into these books. It's the source material for a lot of the movies that we enjoy watching, a lot of the TV shows. And in tonight's episode, we're going to be covering chapters 28 and 29. A lot of cool things happen, a lot of alliances are made. The end of the logbook is finally reached, but what's actually in it? I can't wait to find out. Align with us and subscribe below, and let's begin.
Hello and welcome to the Doctors Who Read Stuff. My name is Chris.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Brian.
You know what? Guys, we look good.
Yeah, we do.
No, I mean just like
We're in focus.
the camera's very clear. We were a little out of focus.
I think we kind of focused on the
bookshelves.
bookshelves.
Yeah.
We all did 1,000 push-ups before this too, just for the record.
I don't know if you heard me counting. I did over 1,000.
Yeah,
I have to work my guns at the office.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were doing push-ups while Brian was giving our intro.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, I appreciate your dedication.
Well, we look good.
And then
We
we
do.
quickly
Look
moved everything back, and
Right.
here we are.
Yes.
It's amazing.
But today we are covering chapters 28 and 29, right?
Yes.
Of Mistborn, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah. There's a lot happening now. So, the Sanderlanche, isn't that what you said?
The
last
Sanderlanche,
episode?
yeah, and we're almost to the end of this thing.
Yeah.
So
I think there's only 38 chapters, and we're on 29.
yeah.
So we're down.
We're
We're
getting
kind of
there.
the final third quarter of the book. So. Anyway, chapter 28. So Vin is going back to the big balls, and she's spreading rumors to begin the house wars. So she is at Keep Legal, and she talks to someone named Lady Kliss, and I didn't like her. And then she ends up talking to Aelin, and he wants to convince Valette to leave Luthadel. He's getting very worried. He mentions that the Tikiels were killed by House Hastings, and all this stuff is going on. And she also finds out that House Venture is in charge of the Adium mines, the pits of Hathsin. With the House War starting, and they were kind of focusing on House Venture before, now this just really puts them in the crosshairs for Kelsier.
Yeah.
The ball ends, they kind of go their separate ways, and at House Venture, Aelin runs into Straff, his father, and then they have a little bit of a conversation, and some things go on there, and then, is it Jasts? Basically tells,
His friend
comes to visit and tells Aelin that he had Valette followed, so I don't know where that's going. Basically, that's really kind of how the chapter ends, so that's chapter 28. Chapter 29, this one starts with Vin reading the last translation of the logbook that Sazed has done. She doesn't really like where it ends, and she wants to read more, but there isn't any more to read. So she sits down with Sazed. He explains Ferochemy in some more detail. Later, Kelsier joins the majority of the crew in the Renault estate, and they go over a finely detailed map that Marsh provided of the soothing stations. They also discover that Theron's crew, who was part of came in and all that stuff at the very beginning of the book that Vin was involved with, that Theron's crew was recently hit by the Ministry, and Vin's worried that they're still able to tail her somehow. After the meeting, Kelsier is unable to sleep, and he speaks a bit with Sazed about some of the different religions in his copper mines, and I'm not sure where the whole religion aspect is going with all these things that Sazed has, but that's really where chapter 29 ends. So.
All right.
So there's a lot to go through here.
There is.
Yes, there is.
So
Unpack.
the epigraph on chapter 28. Did I get the right word there? Epigraph?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, I think, and you mentioned this in the last episode.
Oh, the deepness.
The
yeah.
deepness is sentient.
Mm-hmm.
And in the epigraph, it's called a thing of destruction, madness, and corruption.
Yeah.
So is him coming into contact with this? Is this how he becomes the hero of ages? I think he refers to himself as, or something similar, to this oppressive, tyrannical Lord Ruler. Is it because he?
What made him this way?
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Brings a lot of good questions.
Does the deepness change him? Does it show him something? And this is kind of interesting. Does he see something? Because I think in the epigraph for chapter 29, he talks about coming up and getting to the Well of Ascension. But does that or his encounter with the deepness, I mean, could it show him something akin to the golden path in Dune, where it's like, okay, yeah, Muad'Dib saved the Fremen, was hailed a type of messiah, but his rule and his son's rule were oppressive because they were trying to navigate the universe through this very tumultuous time, and they could see the path that needed to be taken in order to survive, and it sucked for a lot of people. So is something maybe similar like that happening?
Could be.
And we've kind of drawn some allusions to Dune within this story
like a
before,
lot.
so it could totally make sense if if that's kind of the case. I thought.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought this was interesting that I think in the last episode I talked about how Vin's really kind of at the center of a lot of this stuff with the building of the House Wars. And this chapter really just puts her front and center with kind of spreading rumors about this family and talking to Kliss about this one, dropping other stuff that was it Doxson and was it somebody else from the crew. They were forging documents basically to show that House Hastings is making this move to
withdraw to the southern part of the Empire.
That they were leaving Luthadel and that all this stuff's going on, and I think we find out later that a lot of this stuff is getting picked up quickly and spreading like wildfire between the different houses. So
well, it really gives you a good sense, again, world building. He's still world building, and it's chapter 28, 29, but he's building this sense of economy and how the economy actually works and why they're all interconnected.
Well, and then the reveal that House Venture's the source of the adium, that they run the mines, and that they're really at the center of the Lord Ruler's economy.
And how shocking is it that Aelin just gave that information up?
Yeah, how much does he trust a woman that he really doesn't know that well? And she doesn't know him that well. She thinks she does. Right. But again, I think this was the first time we had a point of view from Aelin.
I think you're right.
So we finally get to see that.
Yeah, I have that in my
I think
notes
that his
right
intentions are that he is who we think he is, or we thought that he is, or it feels like it from his first point of view chapter, because we didn't really know what his intentions were, and if he was just playing her, or if he was up to something else. But I think it kind of opens the door that maybe he is one of the nobles that is decent.
Yeah. Another thing that kind of stuck out was that when he's talking to his father, we find out that Straff has a Kandra as well.
Yeah.
Lord Renault is a
Kandra. And
and
I kind of want to know more. I underline that.
The Kandra recently took a new body, so he's not used to how he looks now. So that's kind of interesting.
But it's like, because I want to know more about what they are.
Yeah. Well, and the Kandra protects Renault's castle. Like when Vin is staying there, they mention that Kelsier was not too concerned because the Kandra was there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think in chapter 29, he mentions that like the Kandra is like they have no need to fear an assassin's blade or something like that. So it's like I want to know more about these guys. These guys,
they sound tough.
BA.
Yeah. Kind of back to the whole adium and the economics. I really feel like that's kind of the chink in the final empire, the Lord Ruler's armor, is that he's got this one house that's managing this very precious resource. From what I remember, the pits of Hassan aren't heavily guarded from what they said before.
I don't think
it's just that there's so much danger. A lot of people don't even know where they're at. And so it seems like, if they do attack them, which I think was part of the plan, maybe that's something that's still in play, even though they don't have the Ska army.
Right.
Maybe the pits are something that they could go after with a small group or a band of people.
One of the things, and I don't remember if it was in this chapter or the previous, but in 26, when everybody's meeting after they find out the army's been decimated, they're like, oh, the army's gone, we can't do this. But I think it's during the executions where Kelsier was like, you know what? Where are the garrisons? They're not in the city because they're out looking for the army. So our army actually achieved the objective, even though they got slaughtered.
Yeah.
Well, and they made the point too that the Lord Ruler every 100 or 200 years will kind of send off the troops and let the houses fight amongst themselves, like prevent anyone from getting too powerful. You kind of like regulate even the nobles through that method.
Yeah.
It was an interesting approach to ruling. We'll see how it plays out.
Right. We'll see how it turns out.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
But I think
I'm trying to remember what
that
else.
was. Yeah, we had that point of view chapter from Ayland.
Oh yeah, then Jast shows up and says, I had Valette followed, and
She
her
was
carriage stopped at this shop in town, and then on the way out of town, I had somebody run up and look, and she wasn't in there. So
yeah.
So I think and I think they determined that she's a spy for another house.
Mm-hmm.
So they really don't know who she is, but they're suspecting that she must be working for another house.
Right. And Ayland says he will do what Straff's asking him to do, which is meet with a lady or something, but he wants 2 spies in exchange.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think he's going to follow up and see what's going on with Vin himself. So that'll be kind of interesting to see it. I'm sure that the spies will find what Ayland is looking for. It will surprise him, but then it will create some tension because Ayland is going to have to stop the spies from reporting to his father what they've found out. So there's that whole thing that I think is going to kind of pop up.
He's going to subterfuge the subterfuge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But
sounds like a good sitcom situation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if
it's like a love triangle type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
But if we're ready to go to 29.
Yeah.
The
some interesting
epigraph for 29. The rest of the epigraphs read almost as somebody who was reluctant to take up the mantle of what everybody said he was or everybody thought he should be. This one, he almost seems like he's embraced it and he's got the ego to go along with it. So that was like a swift departure from some of the rest of them.
And do you remember who Quan was? I can't remember. I'd have to go back and read. So because this one starts out with him having Quan executed for betraying him. So I didn't know if Quan was another terrorist or if it was somebody.
I'm not sure. But I had that same question.
But
So yeah. He just seems less hesitant and more like, this is my destiny.
Yeah.
So
I'm your density.
But and the rest of that chapter kind of opens up with Vin reading
the final translation of the logbook.
Right. Yeah. And there was something I pulled out. The Lord Ruler. I don't know what else to call him besides that, even though he wasn't the Lord Ruler at that point, right? But he forced Rashek to speak, even though he did not want to.
Yeah.
And the exact quote was, "Unleashed, he spoke at great lengths." And I don't know what unleashed meant, but the way it was phrased and constructed, it makes it sound like unleashed was like something more than just like he no longer felt restrained to not talk, and he just spilled his guts. It sounds like something more forceful at work.
Yeah, and I think this must have been after that. I underlined a passage from there too that said these terracemen could be very dangerous. I think perhaps we have treated them unfairly. However, men like Rashek must be contained. He irrationally believes that all people outside of Terrace have oppressed him. He is such a young man to be so angry.
So
that whole thing about he must be contained is...
And Rashek believing that the terracemen should be dominant. The Lord Ruler fears his words because he sees truth to them. And then he witnesses like the great feats of strength, like them casually tossing boulders and things like that.
And he doesn't know the secret to them. Right?
That's where you start to see like the underpinnings of his mistrust and his great need to just like do away with them.
Yeah.
I think that's where that starts to come out.
Yeah. The other passage I'd underlined in here was when he says, "If men read these words, let them know that power is a heavy burden. Seek not to be bound by its chains. The terrorist prophecies say that I will have the power to save the world. They hint, however, that I will have the power to destroy it as well." So I think it kind of goes to that,
Yes, yet the philosophers warn me that if I am self-serving with the power, my selfishness will taint it. I couldn't read my handwriting there for a minute. So
kind of like the taint on the male half of the one power.
I think so, yeah. But I think when they say the power, they mean like whatever he's going to find in the Well of Ascension. I'm assuming that he does develop some selfish intent at some point, and that's kind of what metamorphosizes into what we see in the current time.
Sure.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And I kind of liked how the logbook just ends there.
Yeah.
And Vin's like, where's the rest? Oh, Sazed must not have translated it yet, so she goes racing to find Sazed, and he's like, no, that's all there was.
Yeah.
No.
He seemed disappointed too.
Well, Vin, this is how George R.R. Martin fans feel.
Ooh, too soon?
No.
Well,
No.
no, it's been 7-8 years.
Unpopular opinion, or maybe it isn't unpopular. No, I don't really like George R.R. Martin.
His writing style is very different than...
Well, and it's not so much well, it is kind
the way,
of the writing
I guess
style.
not the writing itself, but the plotting.
But
the way
the
he
way
basically just kind of lets things kind of grow.
Like he doesn't plan things out.
No, he doesn't
Yeah.
have it. He doesn't really have a
grand vision.
He may have an
in mind.
end in mind,
Yeah.
but
He doesn't
to
know
get
how
there,
to get there.
you're right.
Yeah. I hate that. I think it's lazy. I think it is... I don't know.
He's still cashing checks from HBO, so he doesn't need to worry about.
He doesn't care.
Yeah. And just like, there is so much just like gratuitous sexual deviancy, and there's so much violence, and it's just like, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend a day inside your brain.
Nope.
Because it's too much.
But you know who I would like to spend a day inside their brain? Sazed. He knows a lot of random things.
He does.
Farukami. You know, when he goes into the depths of what it actually takes to be a Farukamist. Or, like the special with the metals.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting here where Vin has the idea that, well, maybe I can burn one of those metals and leverage
one
the
of you said
strength.
this a couple times ago.
I think that was you.
Yeah.
And I where it doesn't work, she can sense something's there. Now that makes me wonder that if, based on what Kelsier said in one of the prior chapters, that the metal store has to be, it can only be consumed by the person that created it.
Right.
They're used by the person that created
and
it.
he is able to like explicitly describe what she's feeling.
Yeah.
When she
Right.
tries to.
So
put
it's
it.
like basically there's kind of a wall there. She can see it or feel it, but she can't access it. But what if she's able to store stuff?
Right.
Like create her own metal stores.
Something's
and then
happening
burn
there.
them. There's a seed here that I think is going to get drawn out at some point
in the next 8
few
chapters.
pages.
I would still like to know who the mother is. We were
talking
about
good.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know her father's the head.
Yeah,
right.
So.
But what happens if his wife, was a terraceman? I know there's supposedly all
terrace woman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are there terrace women?
I don't know.
Do they just spring from
don't
holes in the
know.
ground?
Well, they are made eunuchs. At
Yeah.
least the ones who can. So I'm wondering if maybe she was like an illicit.
But going back
sort
to
of
Jeff Goldblum
deal, yeah.
in Jurassic Park, nature finds a way.
That's right.
It's a good point.
Yeah. Maybe the Lord Prilin mated with a frog.
But,
Maybe. Or some amphibious creature.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway,
But
I like where your thoughts going.
Yes,
So
I'm
I
almost
just
wondering,
see it through.
because and Chris made this point before, but she is Vin is progressing at a much faster rate than even Kelsier, who is supposedly very gifted, was able to go through his training.
And he's been surprised at her progression.
Yeah, it's like she was the chosen one of
Right.
sorts. That
She's like Anakin.
But I'm
Hopefully
almost
without the turn at the end.
no.
she had midichlorians.
I don't know.
Here's-
Maybe.
Oh,
We
that
should get a
sounds,
blood sample.
That sound yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, and this would be my complete dark horse guess of the book so far. What if she is the first Farukamist Mistborn
Hybrid?
and she can control both?
That I'd like to think
That's
that's where it's
valid.
going.
I think that's a valid theory because he has spent so much time developing and like laying the seeds for Farukami, and he's given us very concrete rules about how Allomancy works, and for her to kind of like be up here when everybody else is down here indicates that there's something
and the fact
else
that
going
they're
on.
both based on metals and the ingestion or the use of metals in whatever powers they're drawing upon. So So I think there's something there.
I would agree. Yeah.
I'm excited to see how this shapes up.
Yeah, me too.
We have under 100 pages left, at least in this smaller book.
Yeah.
So we're kind of closing in here on the last couple chapters.
I think towards the beginning of the chapter, I think it's right when she's starting talking to Sazed. I think it's another one that's kind of just like, it's not heavy-handed, but it's just foreshadowing that stuff's really going to happen here coming up, because Vin's talking to Sazed, and she says, it's all going to change, isn't it? And he says, what specifically do you mean? Everything. So I just feel like, it's just kind of laying that foundation. Yeah, there's a lot of shit that's going to happen here in the next few chapters.
150 pages.
And she's concerned that things are going to go back to the way they were. She doesn't want to go back to how she was.
She wants things to change, but she doesn't want her life as she knows it now
because
to change.
Because she's finally realized how much she feels at home and how much she thinks of the crew as almost a family.
Yeah, because that's where Sazed says, well, it's the nature of all life to change. And she says, I know. I just wish, I actually like my life now, Sazed. I like spending time with the crew. I like training with Kelsier. I like going to the balls.
Let's go back to those first couple chapters. Did we ever think she would say that?
No. And the fact that she feels more comfortable wearing dresses than, street clothes or
Now, and we've said this for many, many episodes. At some point, Reen is going to come back.
Yes.
We're running out of pages for that to happen in this book, but I almost feel like it's unavoidable.
It's
right.
Inevitable.
So, and that brings up an interesting comment based on our prior conversation here. If they have the same parentage, what kind of powers does Reen might have?
Ooh, good point.
I don't know.
Or maybe they only have the same father and different mothers, in which case that might explain why he treated her like dirt, because he knew she had something that he didn't.
Because they hinted at that earlier, that he knew what she was and used her, even though she didn't know what it was. And Cayman obviously knew what she was and used her, but she wasn't self-aware then.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that has to happen to tie all this up.
Yeah.
Yep. If it is all tied up in this book.
Yeah, because there's 2 others in this trilogy, and I think there's 6 total books in the Mistborn world.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a crazy ride. Like you said last time, it's going to be kind of interesting to have to stop at the designated places so we can talk about it.
Yeah, because I'm trying to not go ahead. Kind of where this chapter ends. Is this the one that ends with Sazed and Kelsier? Kelsier couldn't sleep, so he goes to talk to Sazed. And he tells him about a couple more religions. So I'm kind of curious to see where all this talk of the different religions is going, because he still hasn't found the Terrace religion, but he's got knowledge of all these other ones and sharing them. And so I don't know what all that means right now.
Well, hey, we're going to be back next week discussing chapters 30 and 31.
Awesome.
Below us, you can click on the link to the Mistborn playlist that covers all of our episodes, and then once our next episode is up, you'll be able to link to that at the bottom as well. So thank you very much for your time. Please click subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Alon's